Every day, we move through a world shaped by inventions we rarely stop to question. We ride elevators without fear, wait calmly at traffic lights, trust medical systems to save lives, and use household tools that make daily routines easier. These technologies feel so ordinary that their origins fade into the background. But what if many of the inventions you depend on were created by minds history chose not to celebrate? This story begins with a hidden truth. Countless everyday innovations were pioneered by black inventors whose names were pushed aside, forgotten, or replaced in textbooks and popular narratives. Their ideas changed how cities function, how families stay safe, how food is preserved, and how modern life operates. Yet, for generations, recognition often went elsewhere, sometimes to those who improved or marketed the original concepts, while the true creators disappeared from public memory. This is not just a story about inventions. It is a story about resilience, brilliance, and creativity thriving even when opportunity was limited. It is about people who solved real-world problems, protecting lives, increasing efficiency, and improving comfort while navigating a society that rarely gave them credit. Their work did not just influence history, it built the foundations of the present. As we uncover these overlooked contributions, you may realize that innovation does not follow one face, one culture, or one narrative. It rises wherever curiosity meets determination. Each invention you are about to hear about represents more than a patent or a product. It represents a voice reclaiming its place in history. If stories that challenge what you thought you knew inspire you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. By doing so, you help bring these untold stories to more people and keep important history alive. Now, let us begin uncovering the inventions you never knew came from black innovators. As we continue this journey, a deeper pattern begins to emerge, one that quietly connects every invention we have mentioned so far. These ideas did not disappear because they lacked value, nor were they forgotten because they failed. They were often pushed into the shadows by a system that rewarded visibility, access, and power more than originality. In many cases, black inventors created solutions to urgent problems long before the world was ready to acknowledge them, only to watch those same ideas gain recognition when others with greater influence refined, rebranded, or commercialized them. History rarely moves in straight lines. An invention may begin as a simple mechanism designed to save lives or improve daily work, but recognition tends to follow the person who has the means to promote it, not always the one who first imagined it. For black inventors, limited access to capital, legal protection, and public platforms meant their breakthroughs often remained local, underfunded, or poorly documented. When similar ideas later appeared in mainstream industries, they were introduced as new or improved, while the original creators faded into footnotes, if they were mentioned at all. This process did not always involve outright theft or malice. Sometimes it unfolded quietly through omission. A white engineer might encounter an existing concept, adjust its design, or apply it at a larger scale, and history would remember that moment as the invention's true beginning. Textbooks simplified complex timelines, companies promoted familiar faces, and the public absorbed a version of innovation that felt clean and linear. What was lost in this process were the names and stories of those who laid the groundwork under far more challenging circumstances. Yet the influence of these early innovators never truly disappeared. Their ideas lived on in the structure of modern cities, in the safety systems we rely on, and in the technologies that quietly shape our routines. Every improvement built upon an earlier insight, whether acknowledged or not. In this way, black inventors became invisible architects of the modern world, their contributions woven so deeply into everyday life that their absence from the narrative went largely unnoticed. Understanding this pattern changes how we view progress. Innovation stops being a story of isolated genius and becomes a shared, layered process shaped by social conditions as much as creativity. It forces us to question why some names are remembered while others are erased, and how many breakthroughs were delayed simply because the people behind them lacked the right recognition at the right time. More importantly, it reveals that brilliance does not need permission to exist, even when history hesitates to honor it. As these stories unfold, They challenge the idea that innovation belongs to one group or one moment. They remind us that progress often depends on those willing to solve problems without expecting applause, even when the world is not ready to listen. By reconnecting these inventions to their true origins, we do more than correct the record. We restore continuity to history and recognize that many of the advances we take for granted today were shaped by minds that refuse to be limited by the boundaries placed before them. When we shift our focus to safety, the importance of these overlooked inventions becomes even more striking. Safety is not about convenience or luxury. It is about survival, trust, and the quiet assurance that ordinary moments will not turn into tragedy. Many of the systems that protect us today were born from real fear, personal loss, and first-hand encounters with danger. Black inventors often stood closest to these risks, not by choice, but by circumstance. And it was this proximity that sharpened their understanding of what needed to change. Imagine cities in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, growing upward and outward at a pace no one had anticipated. Elevators were becoming common, yet their manual doors left room for fatal mistakes. Fire tore through crowded buildings with few escape options, and train yards demanded human bodies to stand between massive moving machines. These were not abstract problems. They were daily threats. For some inventors, the motivation to act came after witnessing loved ones nearly lose their lives or seeing workers injured in the course of routine labor. Safety inventions emerged not from distant theory, but from lived experience. Automatic elevator doors, fire escape mechanisms, and railroad couplers each addressed a moment where human error or physical limitation could mean death. These solutions reduced the need for dangerous manual intervention and introduced systems that worked reliably, even when people made mistakes. Over time, these designs became so normalized that their absence feels unthinkable. Few people today step into an elevator or pass a train crossing without assuming the systems around them will function flawlessly. Functionzy. That confidence rests on foundations built long before safety regulations were standardized. The same pattern appears in innovations designed to protect people from environmental hazards. Gas masks and smoke hoods were developed in response to fires, toxic fumes, and industrial accidents, conditions that endangered both workers and first responders. These devices extended human capability into spaces that would otherwise be deadly, allowing rescue efforts and industrial work to continue without sacrificing lives. Traffic lights followed a similar logic, emerging as cities became crowded with vehicles moving at speeds unfamiliar to earlier generations. Order, timing, and visibility became essential to preventing chaos on the streets. What unites all of these inventions is not just their function, but their intent. They were created to reduce harm, to compensate for the limits of the human body, and to introduce fairness into environments where risk was unevenly distributed. Yet as these safety systems were refined and adopted on a larger scale, the stories behind them often faded. Later versions became associated with institutions, corporations, or figures who had the resources to scale them globally, while the original creators were rarely acknowledged. Over time, safety became invisible. When something works well, it disappears into the background of daily life. We notice it only when it fails. This invisibility made it easier for history to overlook the people who first imagined safer ways to live and work. Their contributions blended seamlessly into the architecture of modern life, protecting millions without recognition. Reconnecting these safety innovations to their origins reveals a deeper truth about progress. Advances in safety are rarely accidents. They are responses to suffering, risk, and urgency. They reflect empathy as much as engineering. By understanding who created these systems and why, we gain a clearer picture of how much of our security was built by individuals whose names were left out of the story, even as their ideas continue to stand guard over our lives every single day. As the story moves away from factories, streets, and emergency situations, it enters a more intimate space, the home. This is where innovation becomes personal, shaping routines, comfort, and identity in ways that often feel invisible. Household and lifestyle inventions may not always carry the drama of life and death scenarios, but they quietly define how people live, relax, and express themselves once again. Many of these everyday comforts trace back to Black inventors whose creativity was rooted in practical needs and cultural understanding. Consider hair care, an area long overlooked by mainstream industries. For generations, widely available products were designed without considering the unique textures and needs of Black hair. Rather than accept this limitation, Black entrepreneurs and inventors developed solutions that addressed scalp health, hair strength, and personal dignity. These innovations were more than cosmetic. They were acts of self-definition. Hair care became a way to reclaim confidence in a society that often dismissed or misunderstood Black identity. Over time, these products influenced global beauty standards, shaping an industry that now recognizes diversity as essential rather than optional. Other inventions transformed how people gather, rest, and organize their living spaces. The folding chair, simple as it may seem, changed the meaning of mobility and convenience. It allowed seating to adapt to people's lives instead of forcing people to adapt to rigid furniture. Community events, social gatherings, travel, and shared spaces all became more flexible because of this small but powerful idea. Like many practical inventions, its value became so obvious that its origin faded from view, absorbed into everyday normalcy. Outdoors, the lawn sprinkler reshaped both domestic and agricultural landscapes. What began as a portable, functional solution evolved into a symbol of modern living and efficient farming. It made water distribution more accessible and consistent, saving time and labor while improving results. This invention reflects a recurring theme, solving everyday problems with efficiency and foresight, even when resources were limited and recognition uncertain. In the kitchen, innovation took on a more playful and cultural form: potato chips. So, now a global snack industry staple, started as a creative response to a customer's expectations. What emerged was not just a recipe, but a new way of thinking about food texture, flavor, and enjoyment. The simplicity of the idea masked its impact, turning a local creation into a worldwide habit that continues to evolve while staying rooted in its original concept. Inside the home, ironing boards and clothes dryers addressed the demands of daily labor. These inventions focused on making routine tasks safer, faster, and more efficient, especially in households where time and energy were limited. Improved ironing boards allowed clothing to be cared for with greater precision, while early clothes drying systems reduced the risk associated with open flames and heavy fabrics. These solutions reflected an understanding of domestic work, not as trivial, but as essential labor deserving of innovation. Together, these household and lifestyle inventions reveal another side of progress. They show that innovation does not always arrive in grand, dramatic forms. Sometimes it appears as a chair that folds, a product that finally works, or a small change that saves time every day. These ideas improved quality of life in ways that accumulated quietly, shaping habits and expectations over generations. By recognizing the origins of these everyday comforts, the story becomes whole. Innovation is no longer confined to laboratories or factories. It lives in kitchens, bathrooms, backyards, and living rooms. And woven through all of it are the contributions of Black inventors whose ideas continue to support modern life, even when their names were left out of the narrative. As the story deepens, it moves beyond daily convenience and into the realm where innovation directly preserves life and expands human understanding. Scientific and medical breakthroughs often shape history in ways that are not immediately visible, yet their impact is profound and lasting. These are the discoveries that determine who receives care, how far knowledge can travel, and whether survival is possible in moments of crisis. Once again, Black inventors and scientists played a decisive role, even when their contributions were quietly absorbed into larger systems. The development of blood banking stands as one of the most transformative advances in modern medicine. Before reliable methods for storing and transporting blood existed, life-saving transfusions were limited by time and distance. Medical emergencies often ended in loss simply because blood could not be preserved. Through innovation and rigorous experimentation, systems were developed that made blood collection, storage, and transport possible on a large scale. This advancement reshaped emergency medicine and wartime care, turning blood into a shared resource rather than a fleeting opportunity. Hospitals around the world continue to rely on these principles, often without reflecting on the origins of the methods they trust. A similar shift occurred in the way food traveled across long distances. Refrigerated food transport changed not only what people ate, but how societies functioned. Before reliable refrigeration, communities depended heavily on local food sources, and spoilage was a constant threat. The introduction of mobile refrigeration allowed fresh produce, meat, and dairy to reach distant cities without losing quality. This innovation reduced waste, stabilized supply chains, and improved public health by making nutritious food more widely available. It quietly transformed global commerce and daily diets, becoming a cornerstone of modern logistics. Medical treatment itself was also reshaped by inventions that refined precision and speed. Advances in cataract treatment offered new hope to those living with vision loss, replacing slower and more invasive methods with solutions that restored sight more effectively. For many patients, this meant regaining independence and quality of life after years of limited vision. Such progress demonstrates how innovation in medicine is not solely about technology, but about restoring human experience and dignity. Scientific tools further expanded the boundaries of what could be known. X-ray spectrometer technology opened new pathways for analyzing matter at an atomic level, influencing fields ranging from medicine to electronics. By allowing scientists to study structures previously invisible to the human eye, this technology accelerated research and laid groundwork for countless applications. Modern diagnostics, manufacturing, and materials science all trace elements of their precision back to these early breakthroughs. What unites these scientific and medical advancements is their quiet permanence. Once established, they became integrated into systems that span nations and generations. Their success made them invisible, and that invisibility made it easier for their creators to be overlooked. Recognition shifted toward institutions, industries, and later figures, while the original innovators receded from public memory. By placing these breakthroughs within the larger narrative, a clearer picture of progress emerges. Innovation is revealed not as a series of isolated miracles, but as a continuous effort shaped by individuals who understood urgent needs and acted with vision. These scientific and medical contributions did more than solve problems of their time. They redefined what was possible. And even as their names faded from headlines, their work continues to save lives, feed populations, and push the boundaries of human knowledge every single day. As this chapter of the story comes to a close, one truth stands clear above all others. The modern world is deeply shaped by the creativity, intelligence, and perseverance of Black inventors. From the safety systems that protect us in public spaces, to the comforts of our homes, and the scientific breakthroughs that preserve life and expand knowledge, their influence reaches across borders, industries, and generations. These inventions are not isolated achievements. They are threads woven into the fabric of everyday life, quietly supporting billions of people who may never know the names behind them. Recognizing this impact does more than correct historical records. It changes how we understand progress itself. Innovation is not limited by race, background, or circumstance. But history has often been selective about who it chooses to remember. By bringing these stories forward, we begin to see a fuller picture of how the world evolved and whose ideas made that evolution possible. Each invention discussed in this episode represents resilience in the face of limited recognition and determination in environments that offered few opportunities. Yet this story is far from complete. The inventions covered here represent only the first half of a much larger legacy. There are still many innovations, ideas, and breakthroughs created by Black inventors that remain untold, waiting to be rediscovered and acknowledged. The next episode will continue this journey, revealing 25 more inventions that further demonstrate how deeply Black creativity has shaped the systems, technologies, and comforts we rely on today. Before we move on, I want to sincerely thank you for taking the time to listen, reflect, and explore these stories. Your attention helps keep this history alive and ensures that these contributions are not forgotten again. If you found this journey informative or eye-opening, Please consider supporting the channel by liking the video and subscribing. Your support allows more stories like this to be shared and helps bring greater visibility to the voices that deserve to be heard. History becomes richer when it is told fully, and progress becomes more meaningful when we understand the people behind it. Thank you for being part of this conversation. I look forward to continuing this exploration with you in the next episode, where even more hidden innovations and remarkable stories will come to light.